Picture yourself building a house. It's not just any house. It's one you've carefully designed to be safe, sturdy, and most importantly, protective. Inside, you feel secure. But as time goes on, you realize that you rarely step outside or let anyone in. You're surrounded by walls, both physically and emotionally. This house is a metaphor for the emotional distance someone with an avoidant attachment style creates in relationships. While it offers protection, it also becomes a barrier, isolating them from meaningful connection. But where did these walls come from? How did this house, which was meant to protect, become a prison? To understand avoidant attachment, we first need to look at the broader concept of attachment styles. Attachment styles describe how we connect with others, particularly in close relationships. There are 4 primary styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful avoidant, also called disorganized. Each style is shaped by our early experiences, especially in how we related to our caregivers. People with a secure attachment style generally feel comfortable with intimacy and are able to trust others easily. But for those with avoidant attachment, relationships come with a sense of threat. This doesn't mean they don't want connection. They do, but it feels safer to keep people at arm's length. Vulnerability and emotional openness can seem like a dangerous loss of control. But how does this attachment style develop? And more importantly, how can you recognize the signs? Avoidant attachment typically develops in childhood, often in response to emotional needs that weren't consistently met. Imagine a child who gets hurt, a scraped knee, or a bruised ego after being teased at school. Instead of receiving comfort or reassurance, the child is met with indifference, or worse, criticism. Stop crying. You're fine. Don't be so sensitive. Brush it off. It's not a big deal. Over time, the child internalizes the message that expressing emotions leads to rejection or judgment, not care or support. As a result, the child learns a survival strategy: self-reliance. If emotions are met with rejection, the safest route is to avoid them altogether. This coping mechanism becomes deeply ingrained and carries over into adulthood, where intimacy and closeness trigger that same fear of rejection or judgment. Vulnerability becomes synonymous with danger. But here's where it gets more complex. Avoidant individuals often still crave connection. They might deeply desire a loving, committed relationship, but their learned response to emotional closeness makes it difficult to sustain. They may not even realize they're doing it. To the outside observer, they seem detached, independent, even aloof. But internally, they're managing a constant tension between wanting closeness and fearing what comes with it. Suppressing emotions. Avoidant individuals often bottle up their feelings, viewing emotional expression as a sign of weakness. They prefer to handle their emotions privately, seeing openness as risky or uncomfortable. Trouble with emotional intimacy. Avoidant individuals tend to shy away from emotional closeness in relationships, keeping conversations superficial and needing time alone to recharge. This distance is a defense mechanism to protect themselves from vulnerability. Shallow relationships. Those with avoidant attachment often keep relationships, both romantic and platonic, at a shallow level, avoiding deep conversations or serious commitments to prevent emotional intimacy. Strong independence. Avoidant individuals pride themselves on their independence, often due to a fear of vulnerability. They may find it hard to trust others or accept help, preferring to rely on themselves as a protective strategy. Trust issues. Even in long-term relationships, avoidant individuals struggle with trust. They are wary of depending on others emotionally, fearing disappointment or rejection based on past experiences. Critical of themselves and others. Avoidant individuals are often highly critical, focusing on flaws in themselves and others. This mindset, shaped by childhood trauma, makes it difficult to embrace emotional vulnerability. So what can be done if you or someone you love exhibits signs of avoidant attachment? The first step is recognizing the pattern. Understand that these behaviors are not personal. They're a result of early emotional experiences that shaped how the person responds to intimacy. Knowing this can help you avoid taking their distance as rejection. For those with avoidant attachment, therapy can be incredibly helpful. One of the most effective strategies is to start small, sharing a thought, feeling, or fear that feels slightly uncomfortable. Over time, these small steps help retrain the brain to see vulnerability not as a threat, but as a path to deeper connection. In relationships, patience is key. If you're in a relationship with someone who has avoidant tendencies, approach the topic with care. Gently encourage emotional openness, but don't push too hard or fast. It's about creating a safe space where vulnerability can happen at their pace, not yours. In the end, attachment styles are just one piece of the puzzle in how we connect with others. They don't define us, but they do influence how we approach relationships, Think of it like a compass. It points us in a certain direction, but it's not our only option. Avoidant attachment may lead someone to distance themselves, but with awareness, effort, and time, they can learn to embrace closeness without fear. So the next time someone seems distant or withdrawn, instead of seeing it as rejection, consider it a sign of unspoken fears and learned defenses. And remember, with understanding, patience, and a willingness to grow, we all have the potential to heal and build deeper, more meaningful connections.